State of Cannabis.
This is the State of Cannabis News Digest, a roundup of this week's key developments in the cannabis industry. Our top stories.
This week, we take you through the growing pains of a maturing industry, from market contractions and regulatory crackdowns to rising public demand and stalled federal reform. In California, new research reveals that more than a third of adults are now regular cannabis users, but most are navigating the space without medical guidance. In Colorado and Massachusetts, testing controversies are raising questions about accuracy, oversight, and consumer trust. And in Michigan, one major company is packing up shop, signaling deep market instability. Meanwhile, Hawaii tightens controls on hemp products, and Pennsylvania sees anxiety overtake chronic pain as the top reason for medical cannabis use. Virginia and Washington, D.C. face very different crossroads. One trying to build a legal market, the other struggling to save the one it has. And at the national level, a stark disconnect between public opinion and federal action continues to stall progress. With 87% of Americans now supporting legalization in some form, advocates are asking, how much longer will Washington wait? Stay with us as we break down these stories, state by state, because understanding the future of cannabis in America starts with knowing where we are right now. And now, a word from our partners.
If you're a medical cannabis patient or thinking about becoming one, check out statecannabis.org. It's your trusted resource for state-specific info on cannabis laws, access to discounted medical marijuana certifications, and guides to help you stay compliant and informed. Just visit statecannabis.org, choose your state, and get the help you need, fast and easy.
And now here is the deeper look at the key events in the cannabis world this week.
Since California legalized recreational cannabis in 2016, the state's cannabis industry has seen explosive growth. Now, a comprehensive new study from UC San Diego reveals just how widespread cannabis use has become and what that means for public health. According to the study, 37% of California adults are current cannabis users, with many consuming daily or even multiple times per day. Most users report improvements in emotional, mental, and physical health, but very few actually seek medical advice. Instead, they rely on the internet or social circles for guidance, including on dosing and product safety. The findings are part of a project funded by the California Department of Cannabis Control. As the state launches a second $30 million research grant round, officials hope to close the information gap and guide future policy. Experts warn that without better education, for both consumers and providers, the risks of misuse and unregulated use could outweigh the benefits.
In the ever-evolving cannabis industry, potency is power, but a new study from CU Boulder suggests that consumers may not be getting what they're promised. Researchers tested nearly 300 cannabis products from dispensaries across Colorado and found widespread inaccuracies in labeled THC content. The study revealed that nearly 44% of cannabis flower products significantly overstated their potency. Even concentrates, while generally more accurate, were found to contain slightly less THC than advertised. This type of findings result in calls growing louder for standardized testing and third-party oversight, with retail companies facing tighter compliance demands in the near future.
In Hawaii, new rules are coming for the hemp industry. Governor Josh Green signed HB 1482 into law earlier this month, bringing major changes to how hemp-derived products are sold and regulated in the state. The law requires all hemp retailers and distributors to register with the Department of Health starting January 1st. It also limits the sale of tinctures to adults aged 21 and over, aligning hemp products with regulations for adult use substances. Hawaii's Department of Health will have new authority to inspect businesses, seize non-compliant products, and enforce penalties under consumer protection and public nuisance laws. Oversight of hemp processors will now fall under the Office of Medical Cannabis Control and Regulation, and funding for the new programs will come from Hawaii's Hemp Processing Special Fund. These changes come amid broader shifts in Hawaii's cannabis policy. While full legalization has stalled, the state has recently expanded access to medical marijuana and improved the expungement process for past offenses.
In a move shaking Massachusetts' cannabis sector, regulators have suspended the license of Assured Testing Laboratories, one of the state's largest and busiest cannabis testing labs. The Cannabis Control Commission flagged the lab's unusually low failure rate for contaminants, like yeast and mold, as a potential red flag. As a response, Assured Testing Laboratories is now suing the state of Massachusetts. The company claims it was denied due process. It also argues that its testing practices followed all existing regulations. Assured points to recent confusion over the state's testing rules, and to a separate lawsuit it's already pursuing against a lab equipment supplier. The company believes that faulty equipment may have contributed to the irregularities.
A major shakeup is hitting Michigan's cannabis sector. TerrAscend Corporation, the company behind the Gage and Cookies dispensary brands, has announced it will exit Michigan entirely by the end of 2025. The move means closing 20 retail locations, 4 cultivation sites, and cutting 236 jobs. Executives point to a flooded market and plummeting cannabis prices that have made doing business in Michigan financially unsustainable, even for large multi-state operators. Instead, TerrAscend says it's doubling down on what it calls priority markets, including the Northeast and Washington, D.C. For Michigan, this signals a turning point, the first signs of contraction in a once-booming cannabis industry. For local workers and businesses, the exit could bring pain, but also a chance to recalibrate in a crowded and maturing market.
Are you in the cannabis industry? Then you need statecannabis.org. It's more than a directory. It's a powerful platform to connect with local customers, stay on top of your state's evolving cannabis laws, and promote your business directly to people who care. Advertise your products, showcase your services, and grow your presence right where it matters. Visit statecannabis.org and click on your state to get started.
In Pennsylvania, medical cannabis is increasingly being used to treat anxiety, but experts are urging caution. According to a recent study from the University of Pittsburgh and Johns Hopkins University, anxiety is now the #1 diagnosis among medical marijuana patients in the state. This follows a 2019 decision to add anxiety to the list of qualifying conditions. The number of monthly certifications has nearly tripled since then. The study reviewed over 1.7 million cannabis certifications issued between 2017 and 2023, and researchers found a clear shift. As chronic pain, that was once the dominant diagnosis, has been replaced by anxiety in 60% of cases.
Virginia's path to a legal cannabis marketplace may finally be back on track. A newly formed commission of lawmakers met in Richmond this week to begin the process of drafting a retail marijuana bill for the 2026 legislative session. Their goal is to replace Virginia's current gray market, where cannabis is legal to possess but not legally sold, with a fully regulated, taxed, and equitable system. This move comes after Governor Glenn Youngkin vetoed similar legalization bills 2 years in a row. But with Youngkin term limited and a new governor set to take office in 2026, lawmakers are hoping their third try is the charm. The commission, led by Delegate Paul Krizek, is building on a proposal that passed the General Assembly with bipartisan support but was blocked at the executive level. Public comments during the first meeting emphasized equity, access for small businesses, and the need to prevent monopolies. The commission will continue gathering input in a series of meetings leading up to next year's session. And for cannabis reform advocates, the November election could be the tipping point.
Washington, D.C.'s cannabis market is in flux. Since a March deadline forced gifting shops to either shut down or get licensed, legal medical marijuana sales have nearly doubled, from $4.6 million in January to almost $9 million in May. But that surge isn't translating into easy profits. Dispensary owners cite steep taxes, low patient turnout, and supply chain headaches as major obstacles. Adding to the pressure, neighboring Maryland's cheaper and more accessible recreational market is luring away customers. Still, there's cautious optimism as National Brand Cookies prepares to open a flagship dispensary in D.C. as part of a broader strategic pivot by parent company TerrAscend, which is pulling out of Michigan entirely to refocus on more promising regions.
On a national scene this week, a growing gap between public opinion and federal policy has come into sharp focus as the U.S. government continues to stall on cannabis reform, even while public support for legalization reaches record highs. A new Pew Research Center survey finds that 87% of Americans now support legal marijuana use in some form. That includes 2/3 of Democrats and nearly half of Republicans. Support spans most age and racial groups, with younger adults and Black Americans especially in favor of broader reforms, including expunging past convictions. But while the public appears ready, the federal government is not. The Drug Enforcement Administration has confirmed no progress in its cannabis rescheduling review, 6 months after the process was paused amid allegations of bias and misconduct. The hearing was meant to consider whether cannabis should move from Schedule I, alongside heroin and LSD, to the more permissive Schedule III. Instead, the agency remains in limbo, awaiting Senate confirmation of Terrence Cole, a Trump-appointed nominee known for his cautious stance on reform. This tension, between rising public demand and entrenched bureaucratic inertia, is creating uncertainty across the industry. Patients are left waiting for greater access, while businesses remain barred from basic financial services and federal tax deductions. Research into cannabis's medical potential remains tightly restricted, even as nearly 80% of Americans live in a county with at least one dispensary. Industry leaders, including national cannabis firms and advocates like Mike Tyson, have appealed directly to President Trump, urging him to support rescheduling and broader clemency measures. Meanwhile, a Republican-led bill aims to block tax benefits for cannabis firms even if rescheduling proceeds, highlighting the fragmented political landscape. Make sure that your voice is heard. Contact your local politicians and tell them how you want them to vote if they want to retain your vote during the next election.
Love cannabis? Whether you're into the culture, the products, or just staying informed, statecannabis.org has something for you. Browse your state's latest cannabis laws, find local dispensaries, check out CBD and hemp info, and connect with what's happening near you. Just go to statecannabis.org, click on your state, and dive in. This was the State of Cannabis News Digest, available weekly. You can listen to us on all main podcast platforms. To make sure you don't miss out on the latest updates and in-depth analysis of the cannabis industry, be sure to subscribe to our podcast. By subscribing, you'll get notifications for each new episode, helping you stay informed and ahead in the ever-evolving cannabis market. Join us next Saturday for more insights. Until then, keep thriving and stay green.